Hey, good morning, and welcome to Audio Musings number 375.
375. Wow.
Yeah, can you believe that?
Times are flying.
It is. It is. So we've got, I don't know what we're going to talk about. We ain't discussed it. So let's get started with some ad reads. Go ahead and do the.
we are we're winging it today, but don't worry, we are trained professionals.
Mhm.
So you're safe with us. But
Yes.
first, we're going to talk about Team Titans Real Estate. Why? Because you matter. That's right. Jill and I, we never forget. At the core, it's a people business. And here's an example of what I'm talking about when I say this. I there's many different styles for many different realtors on how they talk to people, present themselves, and interact with everyone. And I often hear from some where like they're very proud of how fast their meetings can be with their potential clients. You go to a house, you meet someone for the first time, you're seeing the house, you're coming up with a market analysis of the home, trying to figure out what the home is worth. And I've heard agents who this was at a previous company boast about how I can do it in 20 minutes and be in and out and on to my next appointment. And we don't like that. We take our time. Now, if you want it to be fast, we obviously will be fast, but we like to take the time to get to know you, find out why you're moving, what your goals are, where you're moving to, a little backstory on the house. So, like, we had this wonderful meeting with someone this past weekend where we were there for an hour and a half. Now, it's just because it organically grew into a lot of conversations and um, it was really nice. But at the end of that, they fully understood who we were. We fully understood who they were. And it's that's where relationships start. And then we can tailor a plan to help her. Is her goal just to sell as fast as possible and get out of there? Is the goal she needs to maximize her money? In which case, a different strategy might be needed. There's different reasons. And believe me, it's not always about the highest price. Sometimes people are all about speed and efficiency and moving on because their life circumstances are dictating that. So that's where we don't come in with a one size fits all approach. We really listen to you, get your input. We view our job isn't to tell you what to do, but rather equip you with the best data possible so you can make the best decision possible. And then we're here to guide you through that and facilitate those decisions. So, anyways, give us a call. We'd love to talk to you. I posted it in the comments. 586-232-5144 is our hotline. And whether you're buying or selling, we're here for you. One other thing, too, from a stat, we're having a record year as Team Titans. Last year was our record year, and this year we're beating it. And I was reading some stats for this year. I guess we've been in a little bubble, not realizing how bad the market's been for a lot of agents. As of halfway through the year, around June this year, 75% of all realtors hadn't had a single deal yet. Right now, the stat said if you do 9 or more closings, you're in this year, you're in the top 2% of all realtors. Jill and I are a team, and both of us individually have more than that. So even if we were individual agents and not working as a team, we still qualify to be in that top 2% of the country. So it's a rather interesting stat that you kind of don't realize till you read something. It's like, whoa, wow, a lot of people are having a tough year this year. So we're not, and we're staying on top of things and working as a team. We always, between the two of us, we always have time for you. So give us a call. We're here for you.
All right.
All right.
Excellent. So a little bit of news with the pending hurricane. We will not be at Spooky Empire this weekend in Orlando. Nobody will be. They have decided to postpone the show. We don't have any dates yet. Don't know if it's going to fit our schedules. But we are very happy they chose to do that and to keep everybody safe. Yeah. It's the big thing is after the storm passes, it's going to be cleanup. It's going to be the see what's going on. See, of course, we've even got power, so things like that. So it's so we are fine on our end. We were able to take care of our stuff yesterday. Kevin and I did get our flights taken care of, so that way we weren't out any money. Hotels, of course, they were very happy to because they're taking a lot of the people from locals that are moving into the hotel, so to have that room available for them, they were very happy to have that. So,
Well, even if they don't get hit directly, like you said, the cleanup is going to take a lot of resources from a much larger area.
well, even if Orlando, which is
Uh,
where we're going to, doesn't get the brunt of the storm, they're going to get a big surge of it. But it's also going to be, they're still talking getting in from 12 to 18 inches of rain. So I mean, it's going to
yeah,
flood. There's going to be areas that are going to be tough, and it's just going to be a massive problem. So it's best to not have that stuff. And they're telling people, don't come to Florida, don't come down here. Yeah, you see where the
there's the
path is
path.
right now. That path, the northern part of that path is around where Orlando is. So it's going to get hit pretty hard. And it's going to be a
Yep.
Category 4 crossing across the state.
I thought I heard it got even stronger overnight. Up, what
No, it
was
is
like
a 5, but
180?
when it hits, it'll hit it as a 4.
Okay, gotcha.
Because when it hits the waters, there's certain, there's different level of waters around the Gulf there. When it hits closer to the shores, it will weaken itself naturally, and then because parts of it are going to start, the outer bands are hitting the coast anyways, and that kind of causes a slowdown on the spin.
Yeah.
So
Brett is kind of an expert on Florida because he goes down there quite often. He has
I wouldn't say I'm an expert on the entire state. I go to a few
not
places.
the entire, but you do know this area quite well. That
I
this
know
is
Orlando,
coming
around the theme park
Yeah.
areas, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
and then
So-
I know Tampa, I know Clearwater. Because my dad
Yeah.
lives in Clearwater. He's safe. He's far enough inland, and the house is boarded up. He's ready to go to sit through this thing, and he's been through them before. This is definitely one of the worst ones ever, but he was not in an evacuation zone. There's different zones, and there were some, and then more towards the coast, and that were required. And of course, certain trailer parks were definitely required to evacuate. But he's in a house.
It definitely
it's a
sounds
solid
like
house.
it sounds like the storm surge is the biggest threat. I mean, obviously, 180 mile per hour.
I think
winds
that
are a
the
threat.
storm surge is the biggest. They keep talking like it saying that, but then that's gonna be the coast. The inland stuff is the stuff I'm worried about with the high winds. They're talking about in this middle here where you've got between the reds, like dead center, crossing over, chance of F2 tornadoes.
Oh
Tornadoes
yeah,
could cause a lot of problems. I mean, they're going to get a lot of
Yeah.
wind. They're going to get a lot of rain, and it's going to be a very.
of course.
It's going to be more. They're talking about the coast more than anything,
Yeah.
which will take the initial hit, but it's going to be basically this thing dragging across the state.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and then you got to really worry about a couple things. One, debris that's airborne. Something flying at 180 miles per hour is going to cause harm if it impacts you.
Mom talked to my Aunt Sherry, who's also down there in Clearwater, who's also safe. And they said the National Guard was down there and came in last weekend and was clearing out all the debris along the coast they could from Helene, because they didn't get a brunt hit there, but they got a big surge and everything else along that area there just a couple weeks ago from Helene, which they're still clearing up. Really the worst part for Helene seems to be up. I've not heard much about Tallahassee where it came in at, but it definitely up through. We hear about the North Carolina stuff a lot, and Eastern Georgia, things like where they do the Masters tournament. They said the course is really damaged, so they'll be doing a lot of work there to clean that up. But I mean, there's towns that are gone now in North Carolina, so I mean that's part of it too. So
now with you, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but like here in Michigan and other places, hurricanes, tornadoes, we're told to go in the basement. Like in Florida, because of the way the ground is, you don't typically have basements. So what do they do for shelter?
They go to we talked to Dad about there's 2 rooms he's got. He's got a closet in the master bedroom, and then there's a bathroom that has no windows. It's a centrally located bathroom. So those are 2 places he'll probably hunker down during the worst part of it. Fully expect them to lose power at some point. So, but it's just going to be a mess.
Places like Florida, do they have like evacuation, like not evacuation, but emergency shelters to go to during these kind of things?
They've got places they've set up. They're using Tropicana Field for a lot of the emergency workers. I saw a picture of that with tons of beds, cots all set up, ready to go. I'm sure there's a lot of buildings, that probably some schools and things like that more inland. A lot of people were just trying to get out. And if you watch, the traffic was just, back to back heading north up I-75. out of Tampa and all that stuff. So and it's been like 2 days of that. So I did see where people were posting online where hotels are still available up in Georgia and Alabama. So I think people are going to go that far just to make sure they're definitely out of the path. I even saw a place that I follow, only ate there once years ago, and I liked it. It was a Shed Barbecue in Mobile, Alabama, and they were part of the Triple D and all that stuff. And they posted that, hey, if you guys come this far, we got food for you. So letting people know there's food there. So it's gonna be something. It's gonna be something to watch and pay attention to. Kevin and I were had planned in case like, okay, if it's gonna work and we can go. We had changed our flight to Fridays. And then it was just a few hours later they said it was canceled, which were kind of, I think Kevin says good morning, by the way, and
morning.
Kevin. And I'm sure both of us kind of were more of a collective sigh of relief on this in terms of, okay, good, we don't have to fly out this week for this. Now Kevin's got to go down for his day job. They've got a trade show next week, starting I think Monday or Tuesday. I think Monday's a setup day for that. So and hopefully they're able to still have that. Otherwise, he'll let us know.
Yeah. So, it's definitely going to be quite the cleanup.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting, thing to follow from many perspectives, and I do find it interesting for the pages I follow, like for Universal. People are posting, "Do you think they'll have Halloween Horror Nights on Friday?" Right now, Universal is closing today at 2. Which, I mean, they're getting a ton of rain, so nobody's going to be there anyways. They canceled the Halloween Horror Nights for today and tomorrow. They said they plan on being at full operation on Friday, depending, of course, it does have in there about, any damages or cleanups and stuff like that. It's how bad it goes. And they plan on having their night, which I know some people are complaining about, but at the same time, it's like, well, it's people's jobs. They need to work, and if they can work, they'd like to. And while it may not be people coming out of town coming in for those things, it's still going to be people wanting to come out to those. And and there's people already saying, hey, I can't make it, and I live over on the coast, I know I can't make it, what can we do? And they're giving them contingency, let them know that their passes and stuff like that will work other days during this next few weeks while it's still going on. But personally, just pay attention to everything, watch what's going on. If you're not already down there, don't already live down there, I'd say skip it this week. Don't even bother going down there unless you absolutely have to. So, it's not worth it.
Definitely praying for everyone down there, and hopefully, as little loss of life as possible. The graphics, I've been seeing this one on the news. A couple different channels have been using it, where the news anchor is standing in the studio, and then they have a CGI graphic showing, okay, here's a 3-foot storm surge, a 6-foot, 9-foot, then 15, and when you see it from ground level with the person standing there and see how high it is, it's like, oh my goodness.
Well, and think about this: 3 foot, it's going to knock a person around. It could definitely drown somebody at 3 foot.
It'll push a car.
People don't think about that. And then you get 6 foot and higher, you're looking at serious damage to a single floor dwelling. And then you start getting up to that 12, 18 foot, it can damage multiple floors on a building and things like that.
And that's where you'll see people on top of their roofs trying to.
Yes. So because it may, and it's gonna be something. That's why they evacuated all the coast areas. They went through door to door, said, "You're out. Come on, let's go." And they did that last few days. So,
and weird side question, but like when these kind of things happen, and then the water goes away, like, are there ever like sharks in the road? like 15 feet is enough for a shark to come in.
I doubt that. It's just like, think about like us here in Michigan when we get like a nasty snowstorm. What do the animals do? Well, they hunker down. They know ahead of time. You can tell they're like you can see them. It's like they're
we're out of here.
They're like, see ya, birds are coming down. They're not flying or anything else.
Yeah.
I could say there's not gonna be fish or something like that, but I think some of the bigger animals like a shark, stuff that it can go deep. When this is going on, I'm out there. They're already feeling it, and their level and they're probably already gone. They're already down, away, things like that. So that's my take on it. This isn't going to be like no Sharknado where they're being scooped up and thrown at everybody.
No Sharknado.
No Sharknado. So stuff like that. So I think it'd be fine. I'm not saying one couldn't show up. I mean, you never know. I mean, things happen where whales end up on beaches all the time. So So
Well,
I don't know.
with AI now, we'll probably actually get videos of sharks going through the waters now without.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
but
think we're gonna
then
see that. So,
you mentioned North Carolina got hit pretty hard too there.
well, that Helene a couple weeks ago was a real. That was same thing like this one. It was a Cat 4.
Yeah,
It swelled up like this, and we've had two of them, and it was a swath. You could see the swath right up through the
yeah,
Carolinas and part of Georgia and northern Florida there,
yeah,
Panhandle and all that, and it got hit hard. I mean, Asheville, North Carolina, and surrounding areas seemed to get the worst of it, and it was flooding, um, stuff like that. So, but the river that goes through the middle of Asheville is now twice the size that it was. It basically opened it up from everything I've seen on in
yeah.
the news and that. So
When I
it's
guess
just something.
the big problem there is hurricanes aren't supposed to go there, and so the
Right,
kind of construction codes they have and everything, it wasn't. They're not built for that kind of weather.
right.
Or flooding. Like they're up in the mountains. Like one guy they were talking to is, I did not ever imagine I'd have a flood problem living in the mountains.
Yeah.
Like the water goes downhill, so it just shows how heavy it hit them for there to be a flooding issue
Yeah,
at high altitude.
this is what they call a century storms. I mean,
Right.
this does not happen this often. It's one that's in a century for them. Even the ones coming through now, they're saying is the largest in over a century. I mean, they get some big ones. They've had a few ones in the last several years. It's gonna happen. I mean, as much as people want to blame human climate change is just a natural occurrence in the earth, and things are going to happen. And as much as they want to say what's never happened, it's never done this, people can forget that we really only have true data of any data released as only a little over 100 and some odd years.
Right.
But for what we know from satellites, things like that, that's still less than 50 years of really good data. So there's a lot of things we don't know in that. So, hey, Kent, I hope they're good too. As long as
Yeah.
they're inland in Bradenton, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah.
It was the coastal line that I saw them talking about today there too. So,
I just want to throw
uh,
this up to this is from the National Hurricane Center. So you see Milton over there on the left side there by Florida, but it
mhm.
looks like there's another one out there, Leslie.
Yeah,
It
that one's
says
going to
as of
move north.
is that what it's going to do?
Yeah, they're watching that one too. It's going to move north. I think they're both going to collide at some point. Probably as Cat ones
Oh,
as they're
I
heading
wonder if
north.
that's what that X is. There's an X
Uh,
in the water.
that could be. I think that's where the Milton's going to hit through, and then they'll hit over there. But I've watched them both kind of go around that. Um, and
Oh,
then
here we go.
yeah.
40 to 60%. That is the mark for 40 to 60% chance for current disturbances and 2-day cyclone formation.
Mhm.
So that's in the 40 to 60.
Yeah, and
So
they should, but if they head north and it's technically cooler uh, waters, it does downgrade.
dissipate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the storms, but they'll head up north and hit wherever they hit up there. So,
Yeah. The closest I've ever gotten to experiencing anything was like 1986. I forget what the big one was named, but it made its way all the way up. And I was living in New Hampshire at the time. And by the time it got to us, they were thinking it was going to be a category 1 hurricane, but it went down to a tropical storm at the last minute when it hit us. But
mhm.
even as a tropical storm, I mean, we lived in New Hampshire, so it was all woods everywhere. So when we were in the house, all you could hear is snapping trees everywhere, like
Mhm.
giant trees breaking and falling, and you're just hoping it doesn't land on your house.
Yeah, and that's some of these I worry about down in Florida too, because of all
Yeah,
the
the
trees around
trees.
there, pine,
Yep.
the all that stuff. So it's just going to be interesting. That's what they had a problem in North Carolina too, was trees. You know,
Yeah.
or in some areas maybe the lack of trees if there had been some forestation going on, and that caused the mudslides and everything else. So, but definitely there, those people are having trouble. FEMA's been out there. I know the state of Florida's been preparing for that. They had already been taking care of what they could with what they got hit with before, but now they got to take care of this. So it's just it's gonna be a mess for a while.
Yeah.
So
Yep, definitely. Well, hopefully everyone's good for sure.
you know.
Um so any other topics to cover on a more fun note?
Well, no, we got a few we can cover and move on to. We're doing a lot of more reading lately than actually watching stuff other than sports. But go Tigers! They won. They are 1-1 in the divisional series
Yep.
against the Cleveland Guardians. formerly the Indians,
Yeah.
and they are playing in home today at 3:08 p.m. Eastern time. So hoping for a Tigers win today. I'll tell you, it was. I watched the last half of the game and I got home from work, and it was great. And Kerry Carpenter, man, he's got a great story. I mean, he was in the minors, basically got released, was working at Dick's Sporting Goods part time, so he was not going to play, trying to get back into the game. And he's been playing great this year. He's not like the best, but he's been playing good. And he just smacks that shot. And it was just great to see him do that. And you can see the excitement on the team, and it really brought them back. And they still all rally around their pitcher, Scrubel, who was the pitcher for game 2.
Well, it's amazing too with this team. I don't follow baseball much, so I don't know the history. But based on what I've been hearing and witnessing myself, I don't think a team's ever formed a pitching core this way, where the bullpen is so important.
Well, AJ's done that, and part of it is instead of relying on constant having 4 or 5 really good starters that you guys always rely on, they've got people that can start and can go in deep into a game, but they're trying not to. They're trying to rotate them around a little bit.
Yeah.
They go every couple innings, they change somebody out. And so it's not because they're tired, doing something wrong. It's like, okay, we're going to change it out, and it changes up the game a little bit. And they're finding that works for them. But the only really going deep has been Screwball, and he goes 6-7 innings or longer if he's pitch counts low. And and the other thing is it's with that they have a great catcher in Rogers. He's caught all of Screwball's games. He's caught most of the other games too. He's just a fantastic catcher. Really knows how to control the game that way, which you need that. You need a great catcher to help control that game. And he doesn't get as much credit as I think he should.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, it's a very young team. I think there's like 13 rookies on this team in the current 26-man lineup they have for the playoffs. The other thing is, the entire team that's playing right now is all making when you add all what they're getting paid, it's less than $20 million a year for the year.
So they were saying 60.
one of the lowest.
I think 65 players in Major League Baseball make more than our whole team. Something like that.
Individually, yeah.
Right.
Well, the pitcher for the Houston that they beat, he makes $20 million a year.
Wow.
And it's more than what the Tigers do. So, but they got a great bullpen. AJ Hinch, the coach, manager, he's taken a lot of flack, but I think it's shown that he's been on the right track. And the other thing was the team itself just wanted to win, and I think they weren't doing bad, but when they hit the early August, the other thing was when it's funny, there's like little things that happen. Unfortunately, Javier Baez had to leave for a while for personal reasons. He's been back, but he's not playing. He's been in the dugout with the team, supporting the team. But I don't think he's on the roster at all. And but Jim Leland, who was a coach for quite a while for the Tigers there in the mid 2000s, took them to the World Series in 2006. They honored him, because he got in the Hall of Fame this year as a manager, and he's still been a part of the organization for many years and still comes around all the time in that. But it's like he came out and someone was joking and posted a picture of him on the field as he's walking off. It's like he threw magic dust down on him as he's walking off there, and they started winning from there right around that time. And I think they just started coming together. They've been a hardworking team, and they weren't losing bad when they were losing. It was just it was just the way it was. But now they're playing hard, and they had the best record in baseball for like the last 45 games, I believe.
Something like that. Yeah,
they were like 33 and 12 or something like that. So
and then they had the opposite run for a while where they were like the absolute worst for a while.
They did bad years ago. They did bad years ago. It's been several years now. When it was the 1 year Trammell was manager, it was a huge rebuilding year. It was kind of a weird year for them altogether, and they lost over 100 games, but they still were not as bad as those White Sox were this year. Boy, the White Sox really were horrible this year. And I feel for those guys, because there's some of those guys on there that actually were doing all right. They just could not pull it off. And you feel bad for I feel bad for anybody I see doing that in that team. It just sucks to have to be that bad. But then you look at the rest of the league, and there's not been a huge, like you had like the Dodgers last year and last couple of years really seemed to run away with it. There's a lot of teams that kind of did well. There's teams that were, that normally for what they did would have made the playoffs, but there were so many teams around that. I mean, the Tigers made it just in the last couple of days of the season.
Yeah.
based on because they kept winning and a couple teams just have dropped just enough. And
Well, yeah, it was a nice series of events. They did spectacular to make that final push, but then we also needed other teams to have collapses, and that happened too. So everything just magically happened at the end. I remember early August though on sports radio, like this team was written off
oh
because I
yeah,
mean they
well
had
they got rid
less
of
than a half of 1% chance of making it. I think if I remember right, back in
yeah.
August.
They got rid of one of their pitchers, and I think he's been playing in the playoffs with what team he went to. I forget who he was because I saw it the other day, and I'm blanking right
Mm-hmm.
now. And there was a lot of rumors they're going to get rid of Screwball, and I was like, man, they can't get rid of him. He's too good. And he had a Cy Young award. He's going to probably get the Cy Young this year. He had such a great year. He got the triple crown for pitchers, which is wins, ERA, and strikeouts. Um,
Yeah.
so, and I was like, man, they get rid of him, and then they really are done.
Well,
But
yeah,
they,
that at that time they were talking about what direction is the team going? Do we get rid of Screwball and get the value that he has to, and we are truly in a full rebuild, or do we keep him and see can we make this core? And evidently,
I
they
think
decided to make the core.
and a lot of things I think it really helped play a lot of this too. And what they did was they looked at the Lions. They looked at what Campbell did. They looked what they've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we got Tigers grit. They're talking about that as grit, and it's Detroit grit. It's the thing. Like we got, they played hard. If they didn't make the playoffs, nobody would have been, I think, upset at this team. But this they made it, and they went down and beat Houston in Houston to be able to play in the divisional series. They've already won one game in Cleveland, so we get 2 games here in Detroit for sure. That's huge. Today and tomorrow they're playing at home, and these are going to be they're already talking about they're having a party downtown starting at noon. If you don't have a ticket, you can still come down. They have all kinds of stuff going on. The bars, the restaurants, everything all around that area just be packed. And then tomorrow the game starts at 6:08, and then they push back the Red Wings starting as the season starts at home tomorrow. So the Red Wings now are starting at 8:00, just so they can have a little balance on time in there. So as the Red Wings are starting, the Tigers should be at least 2/3 of the way through their game. So I think it's going to help with traffic too.
Yeah. The trade I think the trade you were talking about is Jack Flaherty.
Yes.
At the last minute, they made before the trade deadline, they traded him to the Dodgers.
Yes, and he pitched for them the other day. I did see him pitch, and he's pitching good.
Go ahead.
So it's a shame we lost him, but I'm glad he's doing well and with a team that actually gave him an opportunity to go there. But that's one of the things you got to think. Is he looking at the Tigers going, man, I wish I was there, because just that excitement. I mean, Dodgers are a winning team. Dodgers have won, recently in the World Series, but it's one of the things too when you want to be on a team like a Tiger that you don't. This is a rarity to see a team do this.
Yeah, and they're truly playing as a team is the key. And what they were talking about Flaherty before was it's a weird thing because on paper, getting rid of Flaherty should have made us weaker, but we became stronger. But it was something about the personalities that they brought in. It just all gelled, and they all formed this relationship. And I guess they even do things together. Like they'll be seen eating out at restaurants together, and so they're not just together when they're playing a game. They're even together. These
aren't guys that are just collecting a good paycheck for playing a game.
Right.
They want to be together. They want to play. They want to win, and they like being here. And I really do think this is the culture that's changed on the last 3 years because of what Dan Campbell brought into the Lions organization. The Tigers were going through a rough patch on the same, of course, before that too, and coming in, and it just takes some time. But it's like, if they hadn't made the playoffs, I was feeling like it was like, the Lions just the other year when they didn't make the playoffs but were close, and they come back last year and they make the playoffs and then make the run. And that's what I thought we were going to see with the Tigers. And now they're talking Lions is big, and Lions is doing they're doing really good. They lost the game, but then they beat the Seahawks. They
don't let it weigh them down. The loss.
Yeah, they got a lot going on, and a loss is not an end of a season anymore for the Lions. A loss is a loss. It happens. And I was like, it's a good time when it happened there. They're not. I think they're on a bye week, and then they come back next week. But it's just going to be. They're just going to keep going. I think the key now is keep sticking week to week, not worrying about the future, and going from there. And that's the Tigers. They're not worried about next week's games. They're not worried about tomorrow's game. They're talking about today's game.
Yeah, they're doing very good at staying focused on the now.
And that's the key. And then when you got, I think any sport, when you've got a team that was not expected to do anything, they at that point have nothing to lose by losing,
Oh yeah.
and they have everything to gain by winning. They're going to come out and put everything on the field, and they're just going to do that. It's going to be something that I think, if
Yeah.
they get through this series and they make the American League Championship, it's going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
And
So
God love them if they make the World Series. It's just
yeah.
this whole city's gonna explode.
Yeah. Well, success is a contagious thing.
Yes.
And you have the Lions as a area, the state of Michigan has been a dire place for sports fans for the last 10 plus years.
Yeah.
The Pistons, the Lions, everyone's been horrible. And with the Lions making the turnaround the way they did, what I heard earlier in the season is that the Tiger players went to the playoff games for the Lions.
Oh yeah.
And they saw the energy, how the fans embraced them, how everything came around them. And what they were saying is, we want that.
And they're getting it. And then
I think that energized them.
And the last few games of the regular season, there was several of the Red Wing players at the Tigers game supporting them. So the teams, these different sports teams here in Detroit, are supporting each other in such a way that it is building this synergism, this energy around everybody. And it's that energy of, we all want to win and we support each other, even if we're not playing that game. We're playing our game, but having that deal. And I think that's what we're seeing. And it spills out to a lot of people. There's a lot of people I know that are like, I don't care. I don't watch any of these sports. I don't care nothing about that. It doesn't affect my life at all. And in the long run, a lot of it doesn't affect my life, but I love seeing it because I love seeing people achieve. Yeah. I don't sit and watch games endlessly like, oh, I have to watch this. I have to always be there. But to see people win and play hard and give their best is always fun to see, regardless of what it is. Mm-hmm. And we had that, and having different things in Michigan happen in the last couple of years with these sports teams really does affect a lot of people, and then that spills out to the greater good in different ways.
Yeah, and also like the whole success is contagious thing. I guarantee you right now, no matter how good the best teams in baseball right now, no one wants to get the Tigers.
Well,
they're a hot team, and so psychologically going into it, like, oh no, we got them. Nobody's looking at the record, the overall record anymore. They're looking at how hot this team is.
The Guardians came in that first game and they just tore them up a little bit. And the Tigers needed that. They needed that major loss. Basically they were down, 5-0 after the first inning, and then stayed that way till they got Guardians got a couple more runs later on. But otherwise it was a pitcher's duel. And then the next, they took that energy, Tigers did, and came out. And Screwball's there. And Screwball is such a leader of the team, which is what you need. You need leaders on a team to make the team work. And the fact is, he can only pitch once every 4 or 5 outings. He can't pitch all the time. So that's part of the reason they have their thing to do. But he's there supporting the team. And I'll even say this for the Astros. Verlander was not on the roster, but he was there for all the games. And in the dugout working, it's his team. He was rooting his team. And when you see these people, like, those are leaders. Those are people that do that. I've talked about that with the Lions. For a long time, they didn't have a real leader on the field. And now they've got several good leaders on the field on both offense and defense that are really making them come together and work hard and balance each other out.
Was Verlander injured?
I think he wasn't pitching that well. And I think he voluntarily said, hey, don't put me on the roster, so it freed up a spot. Because if he's not pitching good, he's like, I don't want to bring – and he's not done well in the postseason the last few years. He's still part of the team, but he's not on the – they can only have a 26-man roster during the playoffs. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, go Tigers. I'm excited to see where it goes. That the hope was to split the games in Cleveland. They did that. So now they have 2 games here. If they can win both home games,
that's it. It's best of 5. On. Yeah, it's
right.
Best of 5 for this one, and a best of 7 for the championship series.
Yeah,
and that one is you got the Yankees. Who are they playing? Let me look up that real quick. See how much I've paid attention to them too. The Royals. That's right, the Royals, which are definitely a big rival for the Tigers. And the thing was, for these divisional series, this is the first time that all 4 sets of games were everybody was 1-1 after the first 2 games. It's the first time it's ever happened. So, but then you've got San Diego are leading the Dodgers 2-1. They came out hard at home and they won it bad. And they've got a major rivalry going on there, to where the Dodgers fans are actually throwing stuff on the field during game 2, which is ridiculous. and then the Phillies are having a hard time against the Mets. The Mets are another team like the Tigers that were not expected to be there, and they're playing like the Tigers. In
Yeah.
some ways, I said, I wouldn't mind seeing it end up in the World Series. You get the Mets and the Tigers. It's these two Cinderella teams that were not expected to be in the playoffs at all, and now
Right.
going for a World Series. I think it'd make a great series at that point.
Well, that's awesome.
So, yeah. So other than that, that's what I've been doing is keeping up with some baseball, working, and then reading a little bit. I've been reading stuff I've already read before because I just been wanting to get back into reading a little bit, a little more consistently in there. So I'm rereading a couple books I haven't read in several years. I wanted to reread anyway. So
I regarding reading, I got myself that copy of The Writer's Journey.
Oh, good.
So start reading that. It's a much thicker book than I was expecting.
There's a lot to it.
It's like this big, and it's like the 25th edition. So it's
I think mine is probably this big, but it may have been also the thickness of the paper too. But
it was. I was like, whoa, that's a lot of reading.
Yeah,
but I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping to get some tips because so with Crimson Shadows, I've written the middle act.
Yeah.
The first act's written. And then the third act I want to finalize. And I'm hoping to get some good tips out of this book on how to really take my writing to the next level to really make it a strong ending for Crimson Shadows there. So looking forward to checking out those nuggets of wisdom in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what I tell people when they say, well, what's the best thing about writing? What should you do besides writing? The main thing is you need to read. And it's not always just reading fictional books or nonfiction books. You want to read these books and help. And this thing, no matter how good you think you are, whatever field it is, you can always learn something more from somebody else. There's always something that didn't know about or realize. Maybe something you were doing that you realize, oh, I've been doing that, but here's what I do to make that better. And I don't care what field, you should educate yourself more within that field and always be open to learning and not always trying to say that you are the absolute expert.
Right. Yeah. Real estate wise, you got to learn all the time because things change. Writing, things change. Everything changes.
Well, it's like you said, you're looking at to see how your direction is going in your writing and seeing, is there something I need to look at here that will give me some idea as I get through that path. And that's a big deal.
Exactly.
So
talking about the writing and stuff, while Crimson Shadows is in the works, we have our next Kickstarter coming. The pre-launch page isn't up, but here's a preview of it.
Yeah.
I'm in the approval process right now. I still have to finalize the Kickstarter, but I thought I'd put this up just to tease. This is going to be launching next week. It's called Last Light, and it covers. It's a historical fiction. Takes place in 1908. In Imperial Russia, back when Tsar Nicholas II was running it. And at that time, there's something called the Tunguska event, where this massive explosion rocks the Russian countryside. And the blast is it's like the size of the state of, like 4/5 the size of Rhode Island. It's huge. It's the largest impact on Earth recorded since the dinosaurs were eliminated. So this event happened. At the same time as this event, just shortly before, over across the world in New York, Tesla was testing his death ray, as it's called. Now, this is all historical. This is true part of the story. He fired this off to test it over in New York. And he was firing it at the North Pole, and he had this gentleman up there who was going to watch for the firing up in the sky. He was on an expedition in the North Pole, and then he would report what he sees. Well, in real life, he fired it. It didn't hit the North Pole area. He doesn't know where it went. But if you look at the map from a over-the-top view and draw a straight line from where Tesla was to where he was shooting, and then you keep drawing that straight line, it lines up perfectly with Tunguska. So Tesla happened to fire this thing at that time. It happens to be in a perfect straight line on the other side of the Earth, and then this thing happened. So that's the reality that this story takes, and then we spin our tale around it. So I'm not going to reveal the spoilers on what happens, but as you can see here, some kind of side effects start affecting the people in the countryside who are nearby, and almost like a zombie-like state overcomes a lot of people. So we're going to have multiple covers. We got covers from Brett, from Kevin. I've got a couple different ones. So we're going to have 5 different covers available. We're going to have some add-ons. We've got some stretch goals, and then a little bit about us here. So it's going to be a fun ride. It's going to be 32 pages of full color action. So just stay tuned for when we start posting those links for the pre-launch, so you can get notified when it goes live.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm still working. I haven't had a chance to work on it in the last several days, but trying to get my cover done. Been inking and coloring and working on that. So I'll hopefully have that done here shortly, so I can get that to you for the Kickstarter.
Perfect.
And I'm doing a nice cartoony homage-ish.
Yeah.
Ish, because it's not exactly those cartoon characters, but I took inspiration from them.
Well, that's the fun with covers, is you can go any direction you want with them. You can be funny, you can be cartoony, you can be serious, you can be intense and horror filled. Like, you can do whatever you want with a cover, and that's the fun of it. And it gives a nice variety of flavors to the collectors.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how you've described what you're going to do, and I think it's funny. I like.
Yeah,
it.
I shared. I don't have it right here, but I shared the image the week with you on.
Yep.
Here and it's fun. I just gotta get some things done on it and change the background a little bit, and we'll get going from there. So
yeah, yep. So looking forward to that. It's been a lot of work. So those of you who are thinking about Kickstarters and launching your own thing, it's so much more than just drawing some drawings. Now I'm in the phase where I've got my to-do list here of I'm designing the different rewards. I have to design all the banners that go up on the page. Right now I'm making theme music for the project so that I can put together a video for the opening. And so it's got custom lyrics tying into the name Last Light and what that means. So all these fun things we're doing, plus finishing the book. Just have to finalize the shading for the colors, but otherwise it's all done. And then the lettering, which Brett's going to be doing. Yep. Kevin handled the inks, just like on Crimson Shadows there. So we got the same crew working on this, so that'll be good.
Yeah. I look forward to
that. It's a lot of work, though. It's exhausting doing these. It's like, I just want to draw. But we're a publisher now, so we got a lot more stuff to do.
Well, and that's the hard part on that. So, but yeah,
it's always a learning.
Yep. So, and speaking of that, being publishers, next weekend, since I don't have anything this weekend, we will be at the Cincinnati Comic Expo. It's October 18th through the 20th, Sharonville Convention Center. So, those of you not going to New York Comic Con, come on out to Cincinnati. They got a lot of great guests. Kevin and I, we both bought our tables separately, but there will be no divide and conquer. They put us right next to each other. But we are in the main area for the artists, and we'll have maps up online here in the next few days with that. So a lot of great guests. Unfortunately, Chuck Norris had to cancel, but they got like Lee Majors there right here. They got a Mandalorian reunion going on right here. Ming-Na Wen, you got Katie Sackhoff. They got X-Men 97, a lot of the voice actors for that.
Oh, Connie's boyfriend, Gimli.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, John Rhys Davies is going to be there. Ron Perlman just signed on. The voice of Mulan, which is Ming-Na, the original one. Mm-hmm. So, and then you've got Lucius Malfoy. So
yes.
And then for Peter Pan, it's what's it, Margaret Carey, I believe. I'll see if I still got that here. Just looking at it the other day. I've got a book I got from her in Anaheim back in 2018. And she was the original inspiration and that for Tinkerbell from the original Peter Pan from Disney. And then she was also in like the old Our Gang Little Rascals type things too. So she was a hoot to meet. She was funny, cute, and everything. And she's in her early 90s, I believe. So definitely, if somebody you think you'd like to meet, come on, meet her now. So, and I highly recommend it. She was real nice to me. I saw her there. I was like, I got to meet this lady, and because I always love Peter Pan, the story, the Disney animation, things like that. So, come out and meet a real Disney legend.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be fun. Cincinnati is always a great show, great turnout. So that'll
Yeah.
be great.
And Sharonville is north of the city off of I-75. I think it's about 15 exits or so away from downtown there, where we usually get like exit 1. So I think it's like exit 15 or something like that. So it's a smaller venue than they're used to with Duke Energy Center, but
yeah.
But it sounds like they've already sold out of weekend and VIP passes, but there is individual day passes still available.
Yeah.
So it could be a sellout show.
Got the sun hitting just right where, like, if I sit normal, it like gets right in my eyes. It's like I'm trying to dodge the sun here. It like waits for me to do the podcast.
He's like,
and I have these things. I have my real estate signs up to block it, but there's like this little sliver, and it's like somehow.
It's like, hey, Scott.
Yeah. Here's a fun thing I learned earlier today. Do you know this TV show Community?
I'm aware of it, but I never watched it.
Yeah, same here. I've watched little bits, but not like an avid watcher type thing. But they had a joke that spanned 3 seasons to tell. Not necessarily a joke, but an Easter egg.
Okay.
So in each season, they would say they had a scene where someone said the name Beetlejuice. So season 1, the name Beetlejuice. Season 2, Beetlejuice. Season 3, that's what this still frame is. The moment she says Beetlejuice, that's the 3rd time for the series. This guy in the background in a Beetlejuice costume walks by on the 3rd time saying it in the series. Talk about a very subtle long-term joke.
Yeah.
But yeah, you actually see him walk by outside in the window.
Well, it's funny how there's shows that they have these ongoing gags you don't catch right away, and then something will happen like that. So.
Yeah. It makes me think, though, is that like something nobody caught, and then they're like, we have to leak this because we need people to understand the joke.
Yeah, I bet you people didn't think about it because it was like it happened once. It was just an off thing. It wasn't like a big deal. And it comes in, it's like, oh, here's this, yeah. It's when you get a chance to go back and binge watch a series is when you pick up on those subtleties like that.
Right.
Because there's from week to week to week, you realize things like that. It's like I when I watched the Venture Brothers a few years ago, we went through the whole series, and I only watched when it initially aired. I realized how tight the story was through the whole thing. It was consistent through the whole thing. Sometimes you forget things, you're like, oh man, there's a big jump. But when you see it from episode to episode, you kept up with it. Same thing with when I was watching the Drew Carey show for the first. I like the first few years. It was very consistent on how things just moved. It was they had a pattern going that was leading to different things. So,
yeah, those are fun to catch. And I guess there's like a list out there of like all of these long running gags in TV series and different things. So good stuff on our end. Let's see, what are we doing? We're kind of getting in the Halloween spirit. Jill has, which is interesting. Jill usually decorates for fall. She's not big on Halloween. But this year she's like all in on. She's got all these but it's all the cute ghosts and stuff she has all set up, and so now we started rewatching the Wednesday series because I think season 2 comes out soon.
So yeah, I know they were filming it, I believe, over the summer.
Yeah, so it feels like that should come out around Halloween. That seems like that would be the right time.
Let's see here. Season 2, I hate these articles. They say, "Hey,
it's set next year."
Yeah, I think it's it's gonna be sometime next year.
So it's not soon, but
yeah, it says there in 2025, so they haven't got that. That's it yet. Okay. I know when the first one came out, it was around October, November when they started it because they were doing it weekly.
Yeah.
Or no, they didn't. It was Netflix. They just dropped it. Yeah, they dropped the whole thing.
Yeah,
and I like that a lot.
It's fun rewatching. I haven't rewatched it since the first time I saw it, so it still holds up. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's on my list to rewatch because I really enjoyed it.
And then I think actually, let's see. Next week is the premiere of the next season of Ghosts.
Yes,
on CBS
next Thursday. So, yes,
yeah, on my birthday.
All right.
So they decided to give me a birthday present by releasing that.
Yeah, that'll be. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, next week is like the CBS premiere week.
Okay.
So, and then I know they're finished up. They should have finished up filming the Stranger Things series, and I believe it's going to be sometime next year is when they're going to launch that. They'll drop that in 2 different seasons too.
Yeah.
But yeah, all these streaming channels, Disney Plus, Paramount, all this stuff are putting all the horror movies and stuff together, so you can kind of find them at different places. So it's kind of that spooky season now. Which here, we've had a longer summerish season. We're finally cooling off down to fall weather more.
Well, one nightmare that's hitting for the Halloween season, at least for the studios, is the Joker's performance.
I mentioned before I had no desire to go see it. I read a synopsis of it, and after I read it, I was like, "Oh my god, this sounds like it's garbage."
Yeah, and the second they announced Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn, and that was a musical, I knew it was dead. Mm-hmm. I didn't even have to know anything else.
Yeah.
Comic book fans aren't looking for musicals. And then back to like a previous conversation a couple weeks before, like it's as a fan, you invest your time into something. You want there to be a payoff, a reason for watching. And from my understanding, this whole movie is just in his head. So
yeah, that's why when I read the end, it's in his head, and that he's really not even the real Joker.
Right. So it's like, then why am I watching this?
So it discounted the first movie as well.
Right. And then the other thing I read, which I don't know if it's true, but based on the results, maybe it is true. They were saying they bypassed the whole screening. They did not do any test screens with audiences.
That's because they knew crap.
Yeah, so a lot of times they'll do test screens, get direct feedback, then they'll design reshoots, make alterations based on that feedback. And I guess they didn't do that here.
Yeah.
And well, the money, I mean, I think they have to make like $450 million to break even, I think I read. They're at $37 million for the opening weekend.
Yeah, that's just domestic, but even then it's
far lower than
not boding well for doing well. It's so let me see, it's 116 million worldwide, so international is 77 million. So that's not good either.
Yeah. So the studios, it's amazing how out of touch the studios are with the audience.
Well, the thing is, I have nothing against experimental movies, experimental theater, things like that. The problem is they want to take an existing franchise and do these crazy experiments with it, and then they wonder why it doesn't work. I know people like the first Joker. I didn't. I was bored through most of it. There was just a couple little bits here and there, but for the most part, I really didn't care for it. And then they announced this one. Announced Lady Gaga, a musical. I'm going, okay, they definitely don't know what they're doing with this character, because it's not the Joker character. And I said that in the first one that we all know. And I was like, fine, they want to do a different Joker. That's fine. That's its own universe. That's fine. Joker works with period. And even in the comics, the stuff they're doing, the Batman Who Laughs, where the Joker is kind of a version of Batman. A couple of the different miniseries I've seen recently, and they've tied in the Joker with Batman. It has to be the Joker with Batman. It's a yin and yang situation. It really goes together.
Yeah. Yeah, with this, I think one of their major flaws is, so like, let's go back to the first one for a moment. I really liked it. Brett didn't. Okay. Which is fine. But then they come out with a second one, and they completely change direction so if you're someone like Brett, you're not going to have an interest in seeing the second one. And if you're someone like me who liked the first one, they've changed it so drastically, I have no interest in seeing the second one. So who's left? Like, who wants to see this? I mean, other than Lady Gaga fans, that's about it.
Yeah, but even that, did they really go see it? Obviously, they didn't.
Obviously not, because they probably didn't care about a comic book movie. So
right.
It's like, know your audience.
And I've seen several things where they're pointing out that this is the point where both of them realized the movie was going to flop and sucked and whatever else. But
to me, what they had to do was simple. The first one, they did introduce a young Bruce Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
So and Joker meets him outside the gates there of Wayne Manor. This one they should have done a time jump. Have him. He was in jail in Arkham for the last 20 years for his crimes. Now Batman is 20 years older. He's coming out of jail, and now we can see maybe an origin thing with his fight against Batman or something.
Yeah,
That would work. And it would have been really cool if they tied it with the Robert Pattinson one, but they already revealed what their Joker looks like.
right.
So they can't do that, and it's a completely separate universe, which is another thing I think DC's getting wrong by doing these multiple universes happening simultaneous.
Well, I think that's something they're going to eventually kind of get away from. That's what they were doing with bringing in Gunn to kind of helm that stuff.
Which is interesting because Marvel's trying to get away from having the shared universe. They're like, oh, we're tired of coordinating all these movies. We just want independent stuff. But that's
well,
what
they
the
were,
fans love.
but now they're going back to a fixed path. You
But
need a
even
path.
going back to the comics, the fans love interconnected stories. We love that our heroes exist in the same world as our other heroes.
Yeah.
And so even if it's small connective points, you don't have to make it a grand thing every time. Just small references on the news articles, on the news, or something in the background is like, oh, look, see, they're in the same universe. So small things like that matter to a comic book fan.
Yeah. Speaking of Marvel, we'll switch gears a little bit.
Yeah.
So about Joker, since there's nothing to talk about. Real quick, Agatha. I've been watching that still.
Oh yeah.
You take away. Here's my take on this whole thing. I've been enjoying it. You take away the logo. You just and you have a really interesting witches story, and that's all it is. It's not tied into the Marvel universe. It's not tied into anything else other than what Agatha's doing and the other witches. I'm enjoying that. I'm sure it's going to tie back into WandaVision and something in the Marvel stuff, but for the most part, it's kind of an interesting take on witches and the covens.
Okay. Does it feel like it's even part of the Marvel universe or not? Really?
No, it doesn't. And it's
like its own. It's like a serious hocus pocus.
Yeah, in a way, yeah. I mean, there's still some comedy in it. The last week they had the challenge. Because they're on what's called the Witches Road, and they had when they first got on the Witches Road. Then they had a house challenge. This one, another house showed up, and this was the challenge. It basically put them in the 70s, and they were basically singing the version of the Witches Road song, which they sang to get on the road that the one gal's mother had done as a professional singer. So they've tied some of this stuff into their past. Again, nothing tied into any Marvel Universe stuff. But it was interesting to see that they basically did like a 70s version of this stuff and then get up. And I found it funny. I thought it fun and everything else. But yeah, it's just not Marvel.
Yeah. To me, a natural pairing with this would be because Marvel does allow for magic in its universe. That's where Doctor Strange works with magic. It'd be interesting to explore it in the sense of how do these covens interact with the sanctuary that Doctor Strange works out of? How is their magic different from
for them to get to that point? They have to do what they're doing with Agatha.
Oh, okay.
And that's what you're wanting to see is something they can't just say here it is and there it goes. Right. This is giving the necessary backstory of okay, there is other witches, and they're not just people that say I'm a Wiccan or a witch, and they're not really. These are witches that some have been around for a long time, and they actually have lost their powers somewhat, diminished over the years, and going on the road is how they get their powers back, and they kind of all have different skills. There are different types of witches in this, so they're building up this idea of what this is. And then, of course, Agatha herself is still a bad witch in a lot of ways and very selfish, and they're leading into that as well. Okay. So, but it's been good so far.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. This was shot a while ago, wasn't it? And then kind of took them forever to get it onto the air, or
no? I think they filmed it last year.
Yeah,
so I think what set it back was COVID. Let me see if I can find some information. Filmed in several locations, looking for dates. Let's see. Yeah, I think it was just in the last couple of years they filmed it, and it just took a little bit to get it out there. Let's see if IMDb's got some on that time wise. So, Definitely, it looks like it's definitely shot in a lot of studio stuff where the stuff they're in now. They kind of reused the town they were in before for the WandaVision one. So, but yeah, I don't think it's sad. I think it was more of just getting to it because of delays from other stuff and getting everybody's schedules to
It's hard to
coincide.
believe this came from WandaVision, which WandaVision was that long ago already.
Well, that came out what in 2020,
2021.
Yeah.
2021, this says.
Yeah.
So
And that one I think it just finished before COVID, so that kind of set it back a little bit. The other delay from this show was the strike last year. Everything shut down for several months. So WandaVision is 21. So it's a 3-year gap. So they maintained that time frame. So I think they planned on, with everything going on, they knew it's going to come out at this time. So it was probably started filming right after the strike was on. They finished filming and doing all the post after that point.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, it didn't sit for long. It didn't sit because of anything other than I think just the strike and everything else threw it off. So
all right.
But like I said,
cool.
it's not been bad.
You're liking it. How many episodes have been out so far?
I don't know, what, 4?
4.
Yeah, I think there's 8.
They're doing weekly.
Yeah, so I think it's 4 weeks. So I think it's been 5 total now.
Okay.
Let me see here. And and there is they hinted at the one witch, the Audrey Plaza and Agatha, those 2 witches had a relationship. So that's been mentioned before. You expect it with female witches. It's kind of something that you pop in there. But the comment they made about being the gayest series, it's not been about that at all. It's been about the witches and about their backstories and everything else. So it's all part of whatever it is. So it's not anything what it is. So let me see. Yeah, so episode 4 was last week's. Episode 5 is this week, so that's tonight.
Okay.
And then there's 3 more after that. So,
all right.
But yeah, so it's like I said, it's not the greatest show ever. I think it's interesting. I think it's an interesting take on the witches. I mean, we've seen this like in different movies over there, like The Craft. I think they pull it from that and a few other stuff. They'll eventually have to tie it into I think Marvel. And I read a spoiler, which I won't reveal online. That was given during if you watched it on closed captioning in the first episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So someone screwed up on that with the closed captioning by one of the characters' names. So it was
the closed caption guy is like, I'm going to type out all the spoilers.
Well,
at the end.
They're using the they probably used the actual script, so they were going by the character name as listed on the script, which they weren't giving away in the dialogue.
Right.
Interesting. So it's like, yeah.
Oops.
Okay. So someone screwed up there without.
Was the name Mephisto?
No. Mephisto is I think it's been mentioned once during this, but it's not. They're not leading towards Mephisto.
Oh, they mentioned him.
Wow. I believe it was. I want to say it was mentioned in the 2nd or 3rd.
I think we, as fans, we've given up on Mephisto. But remember, there was a.
You're the only one talking about Mephisto.
No.
And I keep telling you that it's never going to happen until they actually say, "Here's Mephisto."
Right. There's like 4 different series where everyone's like, "Oh, you can see. Here's all the clues. It's him."
And I'm watching it going, "Nope, you're wrong."
I'm like, "Please be him. Please be him."
Yeah. Now, another show I've got. I haven't seen the 3rd episode yet, but I did. I think we talked about that last week, though.
On what?
The Penguin Show.
Oh yeah, I have to see the 3rd one still.
Yeah, so I have to watch that still. But like I said, the Agatha Show. If you haven't watched it and you like witches, I say check it out.
All right.
It's not tying into. It's a Marvel production, but it's not tying into anything existing Marvel at this point in juncture. But I could see where they would want to take this and introduce more magic outside of the Doctor Strange part of the series of stuff.
All right.
So
very good.
That's it.
Another week has gone by.
Yep. We'll be back next week. Talk more, whatever. And we'll let you know what's going on with the new Kickstarter we'll be launching, as well as we're promoting again our Cincinnati Comic Expo appearance, which is my last appearance for the year. Unless something changes, but
and we'll be launching the Kickstarter next week. So actually, let's see, the 15th. So next Wednesday, we'll be able to share links to the Kickstarter.
All right. Sounds good.
All right.
Hey, see y'all
Peace
next
out.
week.